Pokemon Champions has been out for a little under a week now, and as we've slowly tried to figure out the meta, what's good, what's not, we've all come to the same conclusion that Mega Floette might be the single greatest Pokemon in the entire regulation right now. Mega Floette is basically like a baby Xerneas or a baby Fluttermane. For those who weren't around when Xerneas was the queen of the game, it was horrifying. Trainers would have to run 1 to 2, sometimes 3 Pokemon dedicated to just beating Xerneas, and even then, it wasn't enough. Xerneas was still winning tournaments, it was still the single best Pokemon in the game. Now, Mega Floette is not Xerneas level, but it is certainly very, very good. So let's break down why Floette is good and what we can do to counter it or to use it ourselves. So the first thing I want to touch on is Mega Floette's ability, Fairy Aura. Fairy Aura, for those who do not know, boosts all of fairy moves on the field by 1.3. Now this is a kind of a double-edged sword in a way. It does buff Floette and it allows Floette to deal insane damage with all of its insanely strong fairy moves, but it does also leave itself as a slight counter to Floette. Enemy fairy types such as Sylveon or Mega Gardevoir perform very, very well into Floette because it is getting boosted by the Floette itself, which is very interesting, but I think overall the ability is obviously a net positive and really is there to benefit Floette. Now, to understand Floette further, we gotta look at its stats. So first things first, this HP stat is quite abysmal. It's not great. 74 is not great for a Mega Pokemon. Obviously, all their other stats can increase when they Mega Evolve, but that HP stat is not changing. So that's pretty good. That's not great. That leaves a clear weakness. It's got low HP. Now the defense stat, also not great, but also not bad. 87 is pretty usable. It's pretty solid. It leaves a little bit to be desired, but that's something you can easily fix up with, I don't know, maybe an Intimidate Pokemon. But this is where the stats start to go a little bit off the rails here. We've got a special attack stat of 155. Now remember, we do have Fairy Aura, so this stat is getting boosted further every time we use a fairy type move. So this stat is absolutely off the charts. Like 155, what are we doing here? Why does it have that? It's literally better than Fluttermane levels of damage with an ability. Are we for real right now? Are we for real? And then its special defense is 148. My girl Cresselia dreams of a special defense stat that high, and she's a bulky tank. This thing is an offensive nuclear bomb, and they give it a 148 special defense? Are we kidding? And then the speed stat. The goddamn speed stat is flawless for this thing. It outspeeds Pokemon such as Charizard, Kangaskhan. Base 102 is literally perfect. If it was 103, it would be actual perfection, sent from the heavens. But 102, speed time with Garchomp, is pretty insane. And it also doesn't account for the fact that you don't have to invest in speed. This Pokemon is just naturally fast, and you're able to invest a lot more in that lackluster defense and HP stat because its speed is so high. So it's got godlike stats, an amazing ability. Maybe it has a really lackluster move pool, right? Maybe this guy's balanced in that way. I'm gonna say no here. It starts off with Moonblast, obviously an incredible move in its own right. I still don't know why this move hasn't been nerfed. Why is it 95 power? Please lower it to 90. Please, I beg of you. And then it also has access to Dazzling Gleam. Simply the best fairy spread move you could ask for. And with a Pokemon with Fairy Aura, why not? And then it also gets access to Draining Kiss. Now normally Draining Kiss wouldn't be a big deal, but it does have access to Calm Mind, so it's able to boost its special attack and special defense, which are already monstrous, but it also allows you to now have a move that sustains. Now normally this move isn't great, it's a base 50 power fairy move, but with Fairy Aura, with those stats, with Calm Mind, it turns into the perfect move to make Floette into an absolute drain tank, which is just absurd. But then, if that's not enough, it also has a signature move, Light of Ruin, which is a base 140 fairy move that you do take recoil, you do take half the damage dealt, and it can miss, but it is a 140 fairy move. Very little Pokemon in this game can survive this, let alone, not to mention the fact that we don't have Assault Vest. So this format is just absolutely perfect for Floette to succeed in, whether you want to use it as a special attacking nuke with Light of Ruin and some good fairy spread moves, or you want to turn it into a unkillable drain tank with the help of some support Pokemon. Speaking of support Pokemon, let's break down Floette's best partners. Now the first partner that comes to mind is Incineroar. I think Incineroar is the perfect partner for Floette, not just because of Intimidate, because obviously the defense stat of Floette isn't great, so having a Intimidator like Incineroar next to Floette feels very, very good, but the presence of Fake Out. Fake Out is obviously an amazing move for any Pokemon, but specifically with Floette, I think the Calm Mindset is easily one of the best. So having that Fake Out enabling the Calm Mind turn 1 is just absolutely disgusting. Not only that, you can easily set up some parting shots to make Floette even bulkier on both sides of the spectrum and just making it unkillable. Now, we have Incineroar and Floette, two amazing partners, practically made for each other, but then we introduce the Thruple, the third Pokemon that makes Floette even better in this current regulation, and that is none other than Sinestro. Sinestro is also amazing for Floette because Floette's main weaknesses are a lack of recovery. Even with Draining Kiss, it can be a little bit much because you don't get to run leftovers or anything of that sort because you do have to run a Mega Stone, thank God. But the lack of recovery does kind of suck, and also a lack of redirection. There are a lot of Pokemon that can potentially snipe Floette and cause it problems, but with the help of Sinestro, that is no longer an issue. Sinestro can come in off of a parting shot maybe, and it can heal up your Floette, and then it can start pressing Rage Powder to keep your Floette nice and comfy and safe. Just an absolutely disgusting throuple of Pokemon that just cause so much anguish to me. They're just so good as a defensive core. You have amazing typing, you have insane utility with both Fake Out and Rage Powder and Hospitality, and fuck it, Trick Room 2! We have speed control here! Not only that, but Sinestro could also potentially run Life Dew, giving you even more healing. These three Pokemon are an absolutely disgusting core, and in my opinion, the best three Pokemon in the entire game right now. This core is absurd, and if you're not using it, you have to have a way to beat it. Now, another Pokemon you can use with Floette is none other than Aerodactyl. So at first glance, Aerodactyl looks like complete garbage. It is a Gen 1 fossil Pokemon that has seen very little use throughout the history of VGC, but specifically in the context of this regulation, M-A, Aerodactyl might be the perfect partner in the entire game for Floette. Floette has two huge problems, Charizard and Sneasler. Charizard is very annoying because it just walls Floette and can deal a lot of damage to it, and Sneasler can one-shot Floette with Dire Claw, and usually runs White Herb. So that is kind of a problem for Floette and Incineroar, but this is where Aerodactyl comes in. It is able to easily dispatch of Charizard with ease with Rock Slide, and then Sneasler, what a joke. You're able to smack it with a dual wing beat, bypassing the White Herb and also potentially the Focus Sash. You just simply don't care about either of these Pokemon when Aerodactyl is on the squad, making it one of the best partners to Floette. Now let's talk about some counters here. The first Pokemon I want to talk about is King Gambit. King Gambit is excellent into all of these Pokemon, Sinestro, Incineroar, Aerodactyl, Floette. It's able to abuse Intimidate from Incineroar and get insanely buffed up with that Defiant ability. It also has Steel moves. Steel moves are Floette's natural predator, and King Gambit can't be intimidated once again because of Defiant, so it just becomes one of the best answers to Floette in the entire game, if not the best. Now the next Pokemon that's really good into Floette is still Sneasler. Now Aerodactyl is a problem, you will have to work around that, but Sneasler is still an incredible pick, specifically because it runs the White Herb item usually. White Herb allows you to ignore one stat drop and replenish your stats, so let's say you get intimidated, that is gone. Not only that, but when Sneasler consumes its item, it doubles its speed from Unburdened, its ability. So now it is faster than everything, is not intimidated, and is looking for a juicy Floette to kill with Dire Claw. It has really solid, consistent options into it with Dire Claw. It also does well into Incineroar. Obviously, Aerodactyl is still a problem, but we can work around that. Another really potent answer in the metagame right now to Floette is actually Aegislash. Now, traditionally in VGC, Aegislash has been just a special attacker. Physical Aegislash is kind of a joke. It's not super great with the way his ability interacts, but in this current meta and with the buffs to Aegislash and also the nerfs, he has become one of the surprising, really good checks to Floette. So how does Aegislash do it? Well, in Pokemon Champions, he now gets access to Poltergeist. Poltergeist is a great move. It's a really strong ghost move. And now that doesn't necessarily make Aegislash a great answer to Floette, but what it does do is make physical Aegislash better. And physical Aegislash can run none other than Iron Head as an answer to combat Floette and its very annoying presence in the metagame. I think Aegislash is really good, specifically as the Floette answer. Obviously, you have to work around its partners like Incineroar or King Gambit, but I think it's a great response. It can tank hits from Floette, and because it's running physical Aegislash, it bypasses that Calm Mind and becomes a very solid check. Another Pokemon that matches up really well in the Floette is Mega Gengar. Mega Gengar is able to stop all the switching, to stop all the BS with Sinestro, with Incineroar, and can just hold down the fort, keep Floette trapped in, and you can bring in something like King Gambit. King Gambit Gengar is a really good combo. Being able to trap Floette, you bring in King Gambit, you smack it with the Iron Head, but you can also just smack it with your own Sludge Bombs, or you could run Perish Song to slowly kill Floette. Now that option is not as great as trapping it with King Gambit or Sludge Bomb, but it's still an option nonetheless. The main way you want to approach Floette is just trying to hit it with really strong physical neutral moves. I think Floette's defense stat is its Kryptonite, but you still have to be very wary because if you don't do enough damage and it does start getting those Draining Kisses or the Hospitality, sometimes it can be too much to deal with and it can simply just stat check your entire team. Overall, Baby Xerneas is a fine addition to the game, but I kind of wish that it wasn't in the first format, especially before we have all the items. I think its problems are really pushed further by the lack of Assault Vest specifically, because nothing can really take Light of Ruin or those really strong Moonblasts. It can get really obnoxious really fast, and I think this Pokemon is incredible. Obviously, we're going to see a lot of it in official tournaments. Obviously, it's going to be one of the best Pokemon for a while, and we're going to see it dominate those official tournaments, but I do think there's counterplay, and usually it just revolves around having to play really smart and really precise into Floette, because if it does get going, you are certifiably cooked. Alright, now that we've studied and mastered Floette, let's talk about a sample set you could start using today in Pokemon Champions. First things first, we got Draining Kiss. That's our sustain move. It keeps Floette healthy. It's a pretty strong, solid move too after a Calm Mind boost. It's a really good way to pick off enemies and just to keep yourself healthy, like I mentioned. Calm Mind is our setup move, giving ourselves a boost in both special attack and special defense. It's just kind of a great move overall to help enable Floette, and I think it's a key part of most Floette sets. Now you could run like Light of Ruin or something more damaging in this spot, but traditionally I think Calm Mind is going to be the norm, and I think Calm Mind is kind of essential to the way Floette functions. Dazzling Gleam is our spread move. It allows us to do the most damage possible to two Pokemon at once. It's just a really good, consistent move that feels good there. And then Protect is strong just because it's Protect. It allows us to switch in the partner we need to help our Floette continue dealing the damage it needs to do. Now, you could run Moonblast over Draining Kiss or even over Gleam. The fairy moves are really interchangeable between Moonblast, Light of Ruin, Draining Kiss, and Dazzling Gleam. All four are pretty good. I'm personally a fan of always having Dazzling Gleam, but Draining Kiss really can be any of the other ones. Now, for the spread, I think it's pretty simple, and I think it's a really potent one to start off with. So we have max HP because we do want this Mega Pokemon to be as bulky as possible, and then we have 11 defense. Now, the 11 defense is actually really important. It allows us to live a Dire Claw against the Sneasler when they are at -1 attack. Now, you have to be a little careful because sometimes the Sneaslers do run White Herb, so if you get it in White Herb, it's not going to lower its stats. You'll need to Intimidate it again. But if you're able to do that, it's a pretty good defensive jump point. It allows you to take that hit, and I think it's pretty valuable. The special attack is another jump point. You get 1 extra point if you go 15 instead of 14, so I think 15 is pretty good. We have 1 special defense for good measure, and then the rest in speed to make it as fast and as strong as possible. I hope you enjoyed our little Floette video today, and if you want to see some teams with Floette, they're appearing on the screen right now, so click those, and you can start using Floette today. Thank you for watching.